This is Twit.
This episode of iFive for the iPhone is brought to you by MeUndies. MeUndies is the most comfortable and hip underwear you'll ever wear. Check out all the styles and get 20% off your first order, plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/twit. Hello everybody and welcome to iFive for the iPhone, episode 127. This is a pretty special show, for it is the final iFive that I will be hosting. But don't worry, iFive will continue. It's just going to change a little bit. iFive, of course, covers the latest iPhone apps and tips and tricks, and of course, news. I'm Sarah Lane, and I'm happy to see you. Number 1. So last week I passed along a duh tip from Jamie, who showed us how to sort of weirdly set an alarm as repeating in order to effectively schedule it into the future. Well, Greg saw that tip and then he wrote in that there's a much easier way that's less clunky just by using the built-in iOS calendar. Greg writes, "You can literally set an alarm as far in the future as you like. Just go into settings and change the calendar alert sound to alarm or any other preference you have." Okay, so Greg definitely got this one right. Why bother with the limitations of the alarm settings when you could just schedule a sound for yourself at any point down the road? It makes perfect sense to me. Thank you, Greg. By the way, this should work on pretty much any third-party calendar that you might be using. For example, I prefer Fantastical as my default calendar. I've been using it for years, and all the same alert settings are in the details section of any event you choose. Even if that event is called something like wake up, you can make it your alarm. Number 2. So speaking of Fantastical, well, not really, but I thought it might be a good time to spend a little time highlighting apps that I really like and use on a regular basis, not necessarily brand new apps. Now, many of you know that I recently left Twit as a full-time employee to join the video team over at TechCrunch, which is working out really well so far. One of my absolute favorite perks, though, and it's not even really about the job, is that the TechCrunch office is within walking distance of my house. So I walk to work every day, and I haven't done that in never. I've never been able to get to work in 10 minutes by walking, ever. It's magical, and I want the same thing for all of you. But anyway, because I'm walking more on weekdays, and I also do a fair amount of walking just for exercise, I've been checking Apple's Health app a lot more often because it's quietly counting all the steps I take and the miles I'm racking up and even the stairs I climb on a daily basis, which is kind of nice because since I usually don't actually jog with my iPhone in my hand or on my person, this data is separate from my actual workouts, so I can have a goal of just being in motion in general, not just when I'm at the gym. But I've barely tapped into the Health app, honestly. I mean, have you clicked around in this thing? First of all, what the app is really good for is connecting to fitness and nutrition apps, third-party ones, through Apple's Health Kit. So let's say I complete a nice yoga session using FitStar's yoga app, which I showed off on iFive a couple weeks ago. I've already told the Health app to pull fitness data from FitStar Yoga, and I could do that with a ton of other apps that send data via Health Kit to build a repository over time of my activities and my goals and my milestones and all that stuff. Now, of course, if I actually wanted Health to know that I also ran 4 miles today at the gym and then add that to my daily tally, I could as a data point. I just enter it in manually. In fact, it's kind of nuts how much data that Health lets you add. Blood alcohol content, electrodermal activity, number of times I've fallen. My goodness. Number 3, another app that I constantly use is Google Translate. And not just because I like to practice languages, it's kind of a hobby of mine, particularly French, but because it works so well either in written form or dictation form. But the app got a lot more powerful, and here's why. It can now read text that you might find on a sign or a banner or a train schedule or really anywhere, and then convert that text into the language of your choice. As long as your choice is either, English to French or English to German or English to Italian or English to Portuguese or English to Russian or English to Spanish or the reverse of all of those things. But that's a pretty good starting point, right? Particularly Russian because Cyrillic, I just can't with Cyrillic. So it works like this. You take a photo, you highlight the text that you want translated, and then as long as the letters are clear enough for the app to read, Google will do its magic and you'll get the text in your language of choice. It's incredible. Also new in the app is automatic language detection, which means that you can start translating with speech input. I really miss you a lot.
Tu me manques vraiment beaucoup.
And the app will recognize which of the two languages you're speaking, which is nuts. And it's designed to let you have a more natural conversation with another person with minimal pauses.
I love Paris.
Me too.
Moi aussi.
Google Translate is not perfect. I've definitely used it for French, and I've been told once or twice by the native French speaker on the other side of my conversation that I wasn't really grammatically doing it right. But hey, it's a really powerful crutch to have, and of course it's free. This episode of iFive is brought to you by MeUndies.com. Okay. We spend 90% of our life in our underwear, give or take. Maybe you're a nudist, but I'm not. With MeUndies, you'll get great fitting underwear that's 2 times softer than cotton. And I mean, it's gotta be soft, right? MeUndies are the most comfortable underwear you'll ever wear, and they're stylish too. Lots of options to choose from. We got polka dots, you got plaid, some funky styles, lots of colors for both men and women, and you can check out the photos yourself at MeUndies.com/twit if you want a better sense of the variety that you get. The quality would probably retail for at least 2 times what MeUndies is giving you in price, because MeUndies can save because there's no retail middlemen. That always drives up the price, so if you take that out of the equation, you save more. Have you ever heard of a fabric called modal or modal, M-O-D-A-L? That is sustainably sourced from beechwood trees in the Austrian Alps. I am not kidding. That is what MeUndies is made of, and that's why everything is so soft. CO2 neutral process, low carbon footprint. You're saving water and energy because they're spin dyeing their fiber process. MeUndies fit perfectly. I've tried out a few styles. I won't bore you with the details, but I promise you that they're very comfortable, and having comfortable underwear will change the way that you feel every day. If you're comfortable on the inside, or as close to the inside as possible, it's because of MeUndies, and you'll never want to go back. So get yourself some good underwear. I want this for you. Go to MeUndies.com/twit, and you'll get 20% off and free shipping on your first order. That's a nice little gift, huh? Save even more when you buy a pack. They guarantee you'll be happy, or your first pair is free. That's 20% off when you go to MeUndies, that's MEUNDIES.com/twit, and we thank MeUndies for their support of iFive. Number 4. We got another email from Steve. Hello, Steve, who has a really good reminder for all of us that have ever used Siri to ID music that we don't recognize. You know, that's a feature. Steve writes, one of my favorite iOS 8 features is using Hey Siri in my car while I have my iPhone plugged in. I especially like the Shazam integration that allows Siri to identify that unknown song playing on the car radio. Here's how to see a history of songs that I've asked Siri to ID. Open up the iTunes Store app. In the music section, click on the list icon. You're taken to Wish List with a tab for Siri. Clicking on Siri will show you the songs you've tagged by asking Siri to ID a song. I hope this helps some iFivers out there. Keep up the good work, and happy 2015. Well, same to you, Steve, and thank you. I think I knew this. We may have even talked about it on iFive in the past. Hey man, 127 episodes, I can't keep them all straight. But I did completely forget about the Hey Siri feature to ID music. And I definitely forgot that Apple helpfully keeps a history of those queries. Also, I'm sorry to everybody whose iPhones I just messed up by saying, Hey Siri. I'm honestly really sorry. I won't say, Hey Siri anymore during this episode. Also, I'm going to hell. Finally, number 5. One of the things I've had to kind of get used to with my new job at TechCrunch is the way that I communicate with my coworkers, when we aren't face-to-face anyway. The TechCrunch team, they love Skype for messaging. Okay, obviously from working here at Twit all of these years, I'm very familiar with Skype for video chats, but I've never really used it specifically to text everybody before. And for the most part, it works fine. But I had a really strange bug over the last week on the iPhone app, and I thought I would share because it's potentially kind of dangerous if you're using Skype to talk about important stuff like work tasks. So here's what happened. My colleague Matt created a group chat for me and a third colleague to talk about video stuff, our little own private channel. Then he sent an initial message to the group, which I saw as a notification that popped up on my iPhone because I have notifications on. Well, I saw the first few sentences of it anyway. And I was busy at the time, but I knew that there was a longer message in Skype waiting for me. But then when I went to read it, the conversation, even the group, didn't exist anywhere. It was nowhere to be found. So I just thought I was crazy, right? Except that then my coworkers kept chatting, and I kept seeing these truncated messages pop up on my iPhone as notifications. But the conversation did not live in any archived form anywhere. So I went to Twitter and I asked if anybody knew what was up, and nobody really did. But I got directed to a Skype community thread started years ago that seems to be at least related to my issue. Now, the reason I say that this is a dangerous bug is that if you miss a notification, you might miss an entire message or an entire conversation, and that's a pretty bad thing, especially if it's important. Anyway, I reinstalled the app, I even reinstalled the Mac Skype app, no results, and then magically the conversation did appear a day later, as if it had been there the whole time. That's not good UI. So I don't know, man. Skype status, unreliable. And that does it for this episode of iFive. Thanks for being here. As you know, all of the apps and the links and other information from the show is at twit.tv/iFive. You can email ideas or questions or general feedback to us at iFive@twit.tv. You can leave us a voicemail at 614 on iFive. And, you know, I'm Sarah Lane, and I didn't want to make a huge deal about the fact that this is my last show because iFive isn't going anywhere. But I am. As I mentioned, I have a new job, and sadly I have to give this show up, which is actually really tough because it was my baby for 127 episodes. So I want to thank Leo and the whole Twit gang for letting me try a new show format here on Twit. Back in the day, iFive was a little bit of an experiment when I launched it 3 years ago, but it's turned into quite a success, and I want to thank all of you for watching me every week and writing and giving me feedback and saying nice stuff. Sometimes you don't say nice stuff, but I like that too. You're all amazing, and I hope that you'll check on me over at TechCrunch, where I'll be creating a lot more video, and hopefully they'll let me make the same kind of stupid jokes that you've gotten used to here. So again, thanks for being my friends. I love you all. You're the best iFivers a girl could ever ask for. Peace.
Bandwidth for iFive for the iPhone is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.